Being a photographer who shares their photos here on YouTube can be somewhat of a challenge because I feel like I get the majority of my favourite photos during times where I'm not filming videos. And I appreciate this may be as frustrating for you, the viewer, as it is for me when I'm filming these videos, because I sometimes feel like I don't really have many decent photos to share in the videos that I put out. But I do feel like I have a solution for this problem, and we'll get to that later on in this video. But what's today's video about? Well, today I want to share some insight into the scenarios and processes that tend to produce my favourite photos, in the hope that it shares some perspective and gives you some things to look out for the next time you're out with your camera. So whilst we talk about this topic, I'm also going to share some B-roll and some clips from this weekend's trip into North Wales to help demonstrate the point that I'm going to make in this video. Photographers often fall into two main camps when it comes to their photographic habits and their approach to shooting. The first of those is those who shoot with pure intention. This approach relies heavily on planning and careful consideration, where the photographer will often plan in advance to think about their location, the subject, even the time of day or time of year that they're going to go and photograph that particular subject. This careful planning in the pursuit of creating potentially compelling images is a very high risk but high reward strategy. The meticulous planning does ensure a potentially compelling photo, but only if all the elements align. And if conditions don't materialize, for example, then there's a good likelihood that you're not going to be able to achieve that photo. You'll then end up looking for a consolation photo, or you might just have to revisit that location multiple times over the coming days, weeks, months, or even years to get that photo that you imagined going in to that shoot. Now, this approach is definitely part of the YouTube trap that I fall into. When I make these videos, especially when I'm out in the field, I like to think about the location that I'm going to go to film. I think about where I'm going to go, what might potentially be there to photograph. And if everything aligns, then great. But quite often, things don't align. The conditions aren't quite right, maybe the subject isn't quite what I was expecting it to be, and then I end up sharing what I feel is potentially a subpar image. But I also realise that this is a very true representation of what photography is like for a lot of people, and that's why I continue to share these types of videos and share these types of images with you, because I don't want it to be all smoke and mirrors, because not every shoot is going to yield great photos. Now, the other approach and the other camp of photographers are those who shoot unintentionally. And unintentional might not necessarily be the right word, because I'm sure there is always intention behind what we choose to photograph. But what I mean is that these photographers don't necessarily plan their shoots in terms of their subject matter or what they're going to photograph. They leave things down to coincidence and down to chance, and they just remain open to whatever it is that might present itself, and that is the basis of their photography. This is something that I briefly mentioned in a video a couple of weeks ago, where you just allow yourself that photographic freedom to follow your curiosity, and I think that is really, really important. And the good thing about this approach, unlike the previous approach where you're kind of putting all your eggs in one basket of going to one location to photograph one subject, is that with this one, you are going to get a higher yield of photos. It's that kind of law of averages, I suppose. The more you shoot and the more you're open to, the more images you're going to potentially take. And then the likelihood of you getting an image that you're happy with is much higher because you've taken more photos. This was the mode of photography that I was in at the weekend when I was on a little trip to the Llyn Peninsula here in North Wales. It wasn't a dedicated photography trip, but I just had my camera with me at all times, and I was just open to whatever we would stumble across, and I just knew, being a part of the world that was very beautiful, that there would inevitably be things there to photograph. But the trouble with this approach from a YouTube video making standpoint is that it also makes it difficult to film videos, because you kind of always have to be alert to things that present themselves. So it's very hard to plan videos because you don't really know what you're going to find photographically. You have to be very agile, and being agile is not something that's easy to do when you have multiple cameras and tripods and you're trying to think about story and narrative and videos. It can end up creating a video that somewhat feels disjointed, and I kind of want to avoid that as well. But anyway, I'd be really curious to know which of these two approaches have been responsible for your favorite images. Is there one approach that you gravitate to more often than not when you go out with your camera? Are you a meticulous planner, or do you prefer to leave things up to chance? Let me know in the comments below. And whilst you're down there, if you are enjoying this video, why not give it a thumbs up and consider hitting that subscribe button. Now, in the pursuit of getting those images that we're going to have a strong attachment to and that might potentially become our favorite images, photographic or photography headspace is something that I think is worth talking about. We need to give ourselves opportunity to immerse ourselves in the headspace required to be able to think creatively, explore with an open mind, and be able to visualize images when they present themselves. We all have such busy and often demanding lives where we're not able to necessarily fully give our photography the attention we'd like to all the time. Even on trips like this trip at the weekend, I was with family, so I wasn't able to fully immerse myself in photography because I had to be considerate of other people and what they wanted to do. I didn't want to feel like I was holding people up. And this could apply to any number of things. You know, if you're going on a trip and maybe you've got to worry about how much parking you've got left on your meter, or if you've got a train to catch, or if you're worried that the weather's going to come in. There's always things that are kind of in the back of our mind that are potentially distracting us from the photography. And I think trying to remove those distractions as much as possible is a really important part of the process of being able to get the images that we like. I feel like anything that distracts from your photography has the potential to hurt your photography. And I know that it's sometimes unrealistic to be able to fully immerse yourself in photography, but I do think it's important to try and carve out that time for yourself, even if it's only every few weeks or every few months. But just having a window of time where you have no external demands is definitely going to help your photography. And that's another issue that kind of YouTube creates, is that as long as I'm having to make these videos out in the field, I'm constantly being distracted by the filmmaking process. I have to think about the story, the narrative, the script, the talking heads, speaking to the camera, thinking about the B-roll. Do I have enough footage to be able to piece the video together? And I have all of those things to think about while still trying to wear my photography hat and try to find images and try and immerse myself in the image making process so I have something to share. And that's often the thing that becomes really difficult because it's really hard to do both. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create more time for myself where I can immerse myself in photography, get in that right photographic headspace, and eliminate external distractions. And when I do that, I tend to find that I produce the most images that I'm happy with. So I think this kind of brings me on to this solution that I want to talk about. And it's how I kind of want to structure some of these videos moving forward. Because yes, I want to try and document experiences out in the field as much as possible because I feel like they're important. But I do want to maybe share videos maybe once every couple of weeks, maybe once a month. Basically, whenever I have photos to share, I want to do a bit of a roundup video where I'm perhaps not in the field, I'm just sat here like I am today, just sharing the images with you that I've taken over that time frame and maybe talking about the compositions and what drew me to those images. Because I feel like that way I can really take the time to get the photos without the distraction of making videos, and then I hopefully will have something more valuable to offer when I'm talking about images and compositions that, you know, potentially are compelling photos that have a little bit of value to them and can be good learning tools for anybody looking to learn more about photography and composition and that sort of thing. So if you feel like that is a good idea, then let me know down in the comments. It's something that I think I'll be trialing for the rest of this summer, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. So I will leave it there for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and have enjoyed some of the photos that I've shared. It was a really great weekend. I really enjoyed that process of just being able to do some photography without the pressure of necessarily making a YouTube video. But I think as a result, I've been able to share some photos that I'm at least relatively happy with. So, as always, thank you for watching. Thanks for taking the time to check out the video. If you're new to the channel, then do consider hitting the thumbs up button and hit the subscribe button if you are interested in photography content, because I post videos here every single Wednesday. So, Until next time, take care, and I'll see you all next week.